how the pound's falling, what it means, what it's going to mean for people who are already very worried about the cost of living and everything else that we're seeing, bills going up, and talk about things on the global stage and what people can expect, really.
Yep. More carnage.
Sure, people are glad to hear that.
There's not many obvious solutions. I think the government's doing what they can with their nuclear option, but yeah.
Do you think they've made a good decision with the mini budget? I know there's been some calls for a U-turn on it.
Some people certainly think it's not a good thing, and they think it's too nuclear, too aggressive. They're having to borrow tens of billions of pounds that they wouldn't normally have done. I think the tax cut of the 45% was a mistake, but the approach that they've made is that they are trying to help people as much as they possibly can, and they're doing more than I think anyone would have expected. So at the end of the day, it's not their fault that the price of fuel is so high, but they're the ones who are going to carry a lot of the cost. So I think that's admirable, at least.
Yeah, with price of fuel, that seems to be when everybody's talking about the cost of living and about the UK economy and really the global economy at the minute. The cost of fuel and energy prices seems to be at the forefront of that conversation. As we're going into further troubles and carnage, as you so put it so well, how else do you reckon people can expect to see these economy issues affecting them in their day-to-day lives, other than energy bills, which everybody is now becoming very familiar with, like it or not? How else do you think, especially these latest falls in the pound, can be expected to be reflected in people's daily lives?
Yeah, it's certainly not going to help. I mean, the fall of the pound means that, when companies import goods from overseas, it's going to cost them more, and they're going to have to pass that on to, consumers. And so that is going to only fuel, unfortunately, inflation a little bit more. So the Bank of England is doing what they can to try to calm down inflation. Effectively, inflation is how much goods are going up by. And if people stop buying them, then the prices will not go up so fast, and that will calm down inflation. So they're trying to make it sort of more difficult for people to borrow and spend, more expensive mortgages, even less money in people's pockets. It is a very delicate situation because the cause of inflation is actually a global thing, and the individual central banks are trying to do what they can to try and solve it. But it's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and you mentioned mortgages briefly then as one of the things that'd be affected. We've seen some mortgage lenders pulling out on deals and saying they're not going to be lending at the moment because they're seeing, inflation. And do you think that's going to be quite a big issue that people are going to be worried about?
Yeah, I think this is going to have some sort of follow on as well, because there's people with variable rate mortgages, which they will be directly affected as of every this month and next month when interest rates go up. So they will be affected, but it's a relatively small number. Most people have fixed rate mortgages, and hopefully they're fixed into a long one. But if they're not, they might have a fixed at 2% now, and then if they have to renew it in 6 months' time, it's going to be at 5 or 6%. So this is going to be a phenomenal change. So it's going to be very difficult. Also, the fact that mortgages are more expensive, it could put pressure on the housing market, and so people's assets will be going down as well in value potentially, because the housing market has done fantastically well for a couple of years. But I think that's going to certainly flatten out now, if not pull back a little bit in certain areas.
And with people getting new mortgages, as well as those whose mortgages are going to go up, we've already had, over the last few years, over the last year especially, people saying they're stuck in that renters market, not being able to get higher up the property ladder. Do you think this is just going to make an issue worse that was already there? It was
already there. It was already bad, and it's going to be worse now. If you've been renting and you've been trying to save up money, I really feel for people, because as they've been saving money over the last 2 years, the property prices have gone up. So actually they've needed to save more. So they've actually gone sort of tread water and got nowhere positive. And now, the budgeting for a mortgage, whereas 2-3 months ago they might be budgeting at a 2% mortgage, they're now going to be budgeting the 5% mortgage, and it may be something they can't afford. So yeah, it has always been difficult to get on the housing ladder, and I think now, for a combination of reasons that we're talking about, it's possibly harder than ever to get onto the housing ladder. So I really feel for people, mainly young people, who want to sort of get started, because also rents are extremely expensive. even much more than a mortgage.
Yeah, it seems to be, there's just seems to be so many issues, like you say, with the pound, with energy bills, with prices you're going to see just stepping into any shop on your high street, and then mortgages. It seems to be a lot of things. It's going to affect every aspect. What do you think is next then? They've laid out this mini budget, like you say, they're doing sort of what they can. What do you think could be done next? We've had the Bank of England intervention, and
I think they've got to give it a chance to work. It's a slow process. It's not suddenly going to just flick a switch and things will be happy again. I think what they've done, with this mini budget is they've sort of calmed a little bit of the hysteria about the ridiculous numbers that were being thrown around about energy prices. So I think it's admirable what they've done, because they are spending a huge amount of money. Not the government's fault that the price is this high, but they are putting in tens, almost £100 billion to help people, individuals and companies to manage their energy bills, which are just phenomenal, off the scale. Russia clearly is not helping, and I'm sure they won't help in the future, but we've really got to try and find some alternatives, and this is a very long-term thing. You can't just say, okay, let's go and do some more wind power, because that takes 5 or 10 years to put in place. So it is an extremely difficult situation, and I think people are going to find it quite difficult over the coming months.
But do you think that's the other key for in the long term? Looking a lot at short term and going into the winter, and that seems to be where the majority of the conversations are lying. But like you said, long term with energy, we've seen announcements from France saying about how they're planning to completely try and be the first nation to not use fossil fuels. Do you think that we need to use this as sort of not a wake up call, but as sort of as a call to arms to really focus on energy alternatives and being
definitely? I think yeah, the same as sort of COVID accelerated the work from home sort of situation. I think this energy crisis is accelerating the alternative energy situation, basically. So people are now, there's a lot more government incentive. There's a lot more incentive for a lot of people to start doing things a lot quicker. I mean, we were ticking along and putting some wind farms up and putting some solar in, and it was all a little bit relaxed. I think now there's much higher priority, and people realize that fossil fuels, one, they're not good for the planet anyway, but the other thing is that if you've got people like Russia who are in a position to almost sort of blackmail the world into trying to do what they want them to do, governments are now very focused and are happy to put a lot of money and investment into alternative means of energy. So yeah, I think it's accelerating things, and I think it's a good thing overall. And we need to do it. We need to find wind, water, solar, whatever it is to power ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Was there anything else you'd like to add on the topic of the pound falling generally, or speaking about?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, there's the sort of cost of living crisis and individuals struggling with money, and what I've been talking about a lot today is how can people try and offset some of the losses or the cost of living, and what we found is we did some research at London Academy of Trading, and we found a lot of people are looking to still buy cryptocurrencies, and then they're looking at online influencers and YouTubers are influencing them to start sort of if not quite gambling, but certainly sort of get rich quick schemes and things like this. All I'd say about that is that be very, very careful. And before you go into anything like that, you've got to do due diligence, understand what you're doing. So I think sort of education is absolutely key. You've got to understand financial markets, understand what it means when the Bank of England raises interest rates, what markets will move. The good thing about the situation we have at the moment, the uncertainty, is the fact that markets are volatile, and so volatility creates opportunity. And if you know what you're doing and you understand how to analyze markets, whether it's technical or fundamental or whatever, and you can control your emotions, which is a skill in itself, there is a possibility to make good, consistent profits from that. So it is possible. People want to go out and get some more money from financial markets, but just going out and doing it because someone's promised you the earth is not the solution. You've got to understand it, learn for yourself, take some time and effort to learn things, and then there were great opportunities out there.
All about generally being a bit more savvy and very aware.
Absolutely, being savvy, and also people quite rightly want to continue their learning journey. No matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, people want to, go to bed less stupid than they got up, and learn something in their lives. So actually, you're learning it. You can understand what's going on in the news better. You can take advantage of it, and it's something that you can actually benefit financially from learning something new, and which is actually, well, I find it quite interesting.